everyone. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Sophie Farr with Civic Core Consulting. I am simply here to help facilitate today's presentation. As we start, we do ask that everyone hold their comments and questions until the Q&A at the end. So what's going to happen today? Today, our presenters will be providing you an update on Egg Harbor's highway project. They will go over how the construction is going to impact your homes, businesses, and real estate taxes. And then you'll also be able to have an opportunity at the end to look at some of the detailed information in the back, as well as talk to some of the people that are involved in the project. Here with us today, we have the Egg Harbor Village Board. We also have the Parks and Public Works Committee, village staff, and then two of the consultants on the project who will be presenting, which include Mike Simon, project engineer from McMahon Associates, and Joe Murray, senior municipal advisor from Ellers Public Finance Advisors. So our agenda today, it begins with an intro from Village Board President John Heller, and then a project overview, schedule, and construction impact from Village Trustee and Parks and Public Works Chair Lisa Van Lannen and project engineer Mike Simon. Village Administrator Megan Sawyer and Joe Murray will then review the financial plan and the tax impact. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to be back to open it up for questions and comments. There are comment cards in the middle of the table, so if you'd like to write your question down during the presentation, you can hand your question to Jess, right in the middle here, or Tom, who's in the back, and we'll include those questions as part of the Q&A. But you'll also be able to raise your hand and ask a question during that time as well. I'm now going to turn it over to John, who's going to further introduce the project and then share a brief history of the work that's been done in Egg Harbor over the years.
Let's try it. Can you all hear me? Okay, thanks, Sophie. So what I'd like to do is start by introducing the village board. As Sophie said, Lisa Van Lannen heads up Parks and Public Works, and she and Mike Simon are going to go through the nuts and bolts of this project. We also have Cambria Miller, who's in charge of the Plan Commission. Cambria is waving her hand in the back. We have Angela Lynch, who's in charge of the Library Crest Green Tier Committee. And then we have Bob Dixon, who's in charge of the Marina and the Harbor Committee. And I'm in charge, John Heller, in charge of the Utility Wastewater Committee. So what I'd like to do is summarize the history of how we arrived at where we are at this time, and then look at where we go from here. More than 30 years ago, the residents and businesses community in Egg Harbor made a decision to make the leap from a drive-through village to an active partner in the Door County tourism economy. So who are we as a village? We are a healthy community, a leader in sustainability and green tier, and have a focus on the balance of staying small and accommodating commerce. So let's see historically what we look like, what it looks like from the inception and how it impacted our infrastructure and other amenities. And also update any current activity occurring in our public sites. So I'd like to point out the infrastructure that's been done since the inception of over the last 35 years. And also if there are any current activities going on these various infrastructure projects pointed out. So late in 1890, the wastewater, 1980s, excuse me, the wastewater treatment plant and the construction of 42th of the village occurred at approximately the same time. Since that time, the wastewater treatment plant has undergone various expansions and updates, and As a result, we have a very efficient and well-maintained operation and a very strong financial position. At the present time, we are undergoing an expansion to approximately double the capacity of the wastewater treatment plant, and that will be completed in the fall of this year. Moving on to the public beach in 2009, this area right here, we put a biofilter area in and we put in parking. A couple of years ago, the beach was expanded to what we had is a seawall along here that was 4 feet tall. That was taken out. We put in this beach and we put in this stone abutment, and it's absolutely a beautiful facility. Going forward, we're in the process of purchasing 1 acre of property from the Alpine. That's up in this area. And with that, we are contemplating moving the pumping station that's right in the middle of the beach over to that area. This also includes a breakwater, which you can't see. You can see a little bit of the beach right here. There's a breakwater that extends out in that direction, and that kind of acts as a retainer of the sand that's washed out of our beach area. So we're excited about that. Harborview Park and the Egg Harbor Marina. The marina. That kind of acts as is the hub of the village. They accentuate each other. When you're looking down, you see the marina. When you're looking up, you see the park. So, and they are probably the top tourist attraction in the village. Peg Egan and Crest Pavilion, Crest Pavilion, which we're in right now. Both will benefit from a major urbanization of Church Street starting this fall. We are going to completely redo Church Street, and that means curbs and gutters, sewers, sidewalks, street lighting, and I think that will greatly benefit both the Peg Egan and the Crest Pavilion. If you haven't attended a concert yet this year, you are missing a major cultural and harmonious experience. Peg Egan is featuring incredible music. The temperatures have been in the high 70s. We have light breezes and a beautiful sunset, so it's a wonderful experience. I've heard more than once from people participating that it doesn't get any better than this. And as I said, if I've heard that once, I've heard it 10 times. So you should be taking advantage of that. The Crest Pavilion, we're finally back in full operation, and you can see the construction over there. That's solar panels that are going in and will be completed shortly. I think we should also say something about Green Tier. In 2017, Egg Harbor became the first Green Tier community in Door County. As a result of that, the village is committed to sustainable and resilient practices. Some of the accomplishments are the Aggie Bike program, farmers market, electric car charging right here, recycling, composting, no mow May, and solar power, again, which is going in here. So where do we go from here? Per the current comprehensive village plan, 2 of the primary specified objectives of the population are, first, the concept of Egg Harbor becoming and remaining an active and healthy destination with ample biking and pedestrian mobility, and access to recreation through the beach, the marina, and the village trails. Second, ensure Egg Harbor remains a cultural community with small town feel. So I'll now turn it over to Lisa and Mike, and they'll give you the particulars of the project. Oh yeah, that. So, yeah, let me jump back up there. So, 42 was started in 89, and as you can see, curb, gutter, lighting, sidewalks, asphalt sidewalks. 2009, there was an upgrade, and 2023, this is a project we're talking about at the present time. Department of Transportation is coming through at that time to repave the road, and we actually pushed back this project from 2017. So it has to be done at this. It has to be done at this time. So that's part of the reason for the timing. As someone who walks this village pretty much on a 3 times a week, the 42 is becoming very, very tired, and it's in dire need of upgrading. Sidewalks are falling apart. Just, the entire infrastructure needs upgrading. So, okay, now, Lisa.
Okay. Hello, friends. Can you all hear me? I don't need the microphone? Okay. We on the Parks and Public Works Committee are so happy and so excited that we've reached the point where we can share this proposal with you in the Egg Harbor community. And it's such a massive project. Before I start explaining it, I need to give shout outs to all the people who were involved in it, because it took a lot of effort and a lot of time, a lot of years. I need to give first acknowledgement to the Parks and Public Works Committee volunteers, Ed Conlon, Don Helm, Ken Mattice, Karn Northrup, and Mac Bonk for a spell. We've spent many, many marathon sessions, 3-4 hours over the last year and a half. We've toured the downtown streets several times. We've gone to Northern Door communities, Ephraim, Fish Creek, Sister Bay, to see how their projects were working for them. And it just took a lot of our time, but we were happy to do it. And I also want to give a shout out to our lead engineer, Mike Simon of McMahon Engineering. His competence and patience are greatly appreciated. He answered the same question 3-4 times from us until we finally got the engineering point he was trying to explain to us. And he's also done a lot of intercessions with the DOT, whose road it is, the DNR, and other agencies that work together to make this happen for us in the village. And at the same time, I'd like to thank the administration, the village administrative staff, who worked alongside with the PPW committee and who also attended a lot of these marathon sessions. Megan, Tom, Lynn, Jess, and Lydia patiently and diligently set up meetings, attended all the sessions, and gathered and sorted streams of information for us that helped us in our decision making. Also, individual community members have given information and input that's useful in clarifying our decisions. And plus, the Board of Trustees throughout the years have kept us on track and given us their support and encouragement. So I thank all of you. And as you can tell, this highway plan has been forged with many hands over the years. And at its core, it's a labor of love for the community to try to make this a better place for all of us. And in approaching this monumental task, we determined that 5 goals needed to be met to make this project viable. The goals, all intertwined, are to improve safety for pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists, to replace our aging and decaying sidewalks, to create a more dimensional connection within the village, to make parking and maintenance improvements, and to maintain and improve the village aesthetic. The first goal, to improve safety for pedestrians, bicycles, and motorists. Safety first, I'll start with that. This goal was established by several means and some key decisions. The first was traffic calming. The data has shown that an effective way to calm traffic is by narrowing the traffic lanes, thus forcing drivers to slow down and be more alert. We did this by narrowing the existing north and south lanes, each by about 1 foot. Another way to improve safety is by rerouting the bicycle traffic off of Highway 42 and onto Church Street. We did this by way of connectors at Harbor School Road and County E, and more on that later. We also put in left-hand turn lanes. Right now, the village has 1 turn lane for northbound traffic going onto G, and we all know what that's like. The existing Lane will be extended a bit farther south, so traffic turning on there will have better vision. This is according to DOT calculations for us. What's more, we added more turn lanes just north of the curve to alleviate the congestion. A left-hand turn lane will be added for traffic going north onto White Cliff Road, and a southbound turn lane will be available for people who want to turn left into the Main Street shops. We also want to improve safety with bump outs. As you probably know, we have them now. These are the green areas that extend from the sidewalks toward the street. For this plant, right now the bump outs they seem to be selectively scattered. They break up parking in some spots. And we selectively chose the bump outs areas to further calm traffic, plus to give some green space. We'll have large bump out areas starting at the village core, which is Harbor School and County E. There'll be extended bump outs there, plus on some driveways that have either sharp inclines or a lot of traffic. Also crosswalks. For greater pedestrian safety, the crosswalks will be more visible than they are now. They'll have wider white ladder-like crossbars that go across the road. And what's more, the crosswalk between Shipwreck and Harborview Park is now staged with a pedestrian island. This was already done as part of the G project. County G was originally part of the downtown highway, but that broke off into its own project and is now completed. It's lovely. And as part of that, we put an island between the north and south traffic lanes going for the east and west, whatever, between G and 42. And if anyone drives there, you'll notice it's much safer, both for pedestrians and easier for drivers to see people crossing the roads. Another goal, and that's everything we've done for safety. We've done a lot of other little things, but that's the main things. The second goal is to replace our aging and decaying sidewalks. I don't need to tell anybody here what bad shape these sidewalks are in, as John had already alluded to. They're 32 years old, they're heavily used, and they're used throughout the year. And to accommodate that foot traffic that's on them now, we proposed replacing the existing 4 to 5 foot asphalt sidewalks with a combined sidewalk and terrace that's 10 feet wide. Communities throughout the country are widening sidewalks whenever possible. In Egg Harbor right now, when pedestrians meet on crosswalks, they pretty much have to step aside to avoid rubbing shoulders with the person coming at them. This problem will be greatly alleviated with these sidewalks. And the sidewalks' widths will be broken up with brickworks and plantings along there. Also benches, potted plants. You'll see them on the video, but they may not be exactly where we have them in the video, but we want to put as much green space and break up that area as much as possible. We're also considering the possibility of trees in graded areas in the designated downtown extensions where there will be 5 foot sidewalks. The extensions on the southern one, it starts at Harbor School Road and goes to South Trail past Chief Oshkosh. On the northern end of town, it will start at E and head and end north toward Church Street, just past Harbor Hardware. And a third goal was to create a more dimensional connectivity within the village. When we started this project many years ago, Egg Harbor was pretty much a two-dimensional village, defined by a linear Highway 42 that went through it. And to give the village infrastructure more dimension, we hope to interconnect the points of interest within the village, such as the beach, the dog park, the Peggy-Egan, with new paved connections. As mentioned, County G was originally part of that project, but since that has been completed, you can see how that is working. We connected the sidewalks on Highway 42 onto G, which connects to the path, the bird path as we call it, at the nature park, which connects to the beach. So people can walk from downtown to the beach without going on the highway and worrying about traffic, which they had in the past. And we also want to do one big circuit. Church Street and Highway 42 are pretty much parallel, more or less, And we're connecting them, as we said before, with connectors at Harbor School Road and connecting them at Highway E. They will have sidewalks that connect them, curb and gutter, lighting, and bike paths. And this will be really nice if you're walking, you can clock how far you want to walk and how much time it takes to walk these big circuits. Or you could break them up on Market Street or Orchard Street. So that'll be really nice. Another goal is to maintain and improve the village aesthetic. As John said, throughout the decades, the Village of Egg Harbor stakeholders have consistently expressed the desire to maintain our small town feel, but we also want to integrate that with modern amenities. The village aesthetic has been an overriding element in all our considerations over the years. Along with maximizing greenery as much as possible, a key component of the village aesthetic with this project has been the desire to bury the overhead electrical wires. Church Street, Market Street, and Orchard Street already have buried wires. And perhaps that's why it's so calming whenever we're on Church Street. The wires are buried there. Buried wire is also a standard component in developments nationwide. And we see it here in Egg Harbor, in Ames Farm, the Orchards, Apple Ridge. The committee always knew this would be a more expensive option compared to above ground wiring, but we believe in the value of this concept, both real and intrinsic. We also believe it's financially feasible. The villages of Ephraim and Sister Bay have already buried their wires. Compare this with downtown Fish Creek with their tall, dark poles, fiberglass poles. And this opportunity only comes 2 or 3 times a century. So we don't want to lose it this time. We lost it 32 years ago when we could have done it. I think the time is now to do this. Comparisons for the wiring options, the cost, the payment breakdown will come later in this presentation. So we're real happy with the way it turned out, and we hope you are too. This has been a labor of love for all of us. And now Mike will give us some engineering details of the downtown core and the extensions. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Simon with MAN, project engineer for the village. This first slide we have up here is a overview map of various village projects. The focus of tonight is on the Highway 42 project. This was a handout too, if there's any left, you can grab one of these too as well. The Highway 42 project starts at South Trail and extends north to Church Street. We have different symbols for different sections of the project. The dark black dots right in through here and up and through here are the TAP project. The south segment is from South Trail to Harbor School Road, and then from County Highway E to Church Street. That portion of the project received federal funding, just under $1.4 million to help with the village with the project. In the middle section here, we call it the core, that goes from Harbor School Road to E. That's basically the village's downtown area. That is going to be 100% village-funded project. The timing of the project on 42, as John mentioned, is primarily due to the DOT's project that's scheduled for beginning in 2023. I think this might be a good spot for Paul.
Sure.
Paul Barber from the DOT is here. He's just going to.
I'll just stand here so I don't have to trip. But yeah, my name is Paul Brower. I'm with the Department of Transportation at Green Bay, which is the Northeast region. I'm the project manager for state highway projects in Door and Kewaunee counties. Our resurfacing project in comparison to the local project is relatively simple. I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of our projects where we mill the surface, so many inches of the existing surface off, and we just repave it. Basically, we call it painting it black. And that's similar to what we're doing on this project. This resurfacing project is going to extend from Rainbow Ridge Court, which is just on the south end of Egg Harbor, and extend up to Bluff Lane, just south of Fish Creek. It's approximately 7 miles in length. Again, like I said, it's a relatively simple project. Involves paving of the main lanes and the shoulders. There's a section from roughly Harbor School Road to roughly County E. I don't know, you can't really point that out there, but you guys are all familiar with it. There's parking lanes on the west side. We will not be doing that as part of the state highway project. That'll be done with the local project. Basically, the difference between the local project and the state project takes care of the actual traveling lanes and shoulders. The local project is more accommodating of the pedestrians and bicycles and the local facilities. The work that we're gonna be doing as far as the traffic control, if it was just a standalone and wasn't involved with the local work that we have to coordinate with, our work as far as paving, milling and paving the lanes, which is a 2-inch mill and overlay, would utilize flagging, single lane closures on the flagging, which I'm sure you're all familiar with when you have to take turns using one lane. As far as the schedule, like Mike had said, in 2023 is when we're gonna do this. Our project is probably in the neighborhoods of about, I'd say 40 working days, which equates to about 2.5 months worth of work. But because we have to coordinate with the local project, what we're gonna probably end up doing, they're gonna be doing some storm sewer and that sort of thing. Let that work get done. We'll get a portion of our paving done in early 2023 in the spring. We'll take a break during the peak summer traffic, which usually starts somewhere around Memorial Day. I think we were originally thinking July 4th, but it's good. One of those two break points is where we're gonna stop, take the summer break, and then we'll start back up in fall, probably. I think it's right around after Labor Day weekend. I know there's a fall festival and different holidays too that we'll avoid as well. So basically when there's those peak traffic times, we're gonna avoid those closing the lanes at that time. Let's see here. I think I covered the bulk of that. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything else. Yeah, I think that's probably it. I do have some handouts here. Mike, is your station going to be back there somewhere?
Yeah, back by the TV.
Okay, so I have some handouts that have some basic project information about the Highway 42 resurfacing. I think there's a reference in this together, which is about how to accommodate businesses and that sort of thing. It helps guide you through the process. So I'll have the handouts back there on the TV once we get done with the presentation. If you have questions, I'm available to bounce anything off me. So thank you.
Well, I still have the overview up. I just want to point out a couple things here. The Church Street project was mentioned previously, is going from E to Harbor School Road, and then from the intersection of Church and Harbor School down to Harbor School and 42. There'll be bike lanes on both sides of the road on Church Street and on Harbor School Road, sidewalk on both sides of Church Street, and sidewalk on the north side of Harbor School Road. The core project also includes urbanizing Country Highway E to include sidewalk on the south side and then bike lanes on both sides of the road. The first segment I want to talk about is the south segment of the TAP project from South Trail to Harbor School Road. The existing roadway is primarily a rural section with no sidewalk except for a short section at the very north end. There's like 600 feet of the project has got an asphalt trail and curb and gutter, but the rest is a rural section. What we're proposing for that section is urbanizing the west side of the roadway, storm sewer, curb and gutter, sidewalk. There'll be a bike lane for southbound traffic, and the paved shoulder, there'll be milled and resurfaced part of the DOT project for northbound traffic. So everything will be on one side of the road with street lighting added. The second segment of the TAP project starts at E and goes to Harbor School Road. That project has no pedestrian accommodations at this time. It's a 2-lane rural section. We're proposing for the north segment is to urbanize both sides of the roadway with curb and gutter, storm sewer, bike lanes for north and southbound traffic, sidewalk on both sides of the roadway, as well as street lighting both sides of the roadway. As Paul mentioned, the DOT is taking care of the center driving, the north and southbound travel lanes in the village project basically starts at, in this segment, from the bike lanes out to the right of way. In the north segment, because we are eliminating the existing ditches, DNR requires you to provide some type of stormwater quality improvements to make up for the loss of the ditches. Ditches, the DNR looks at those as filtering out pollutants before it migrates down to the bay. So to make up for that loss, we need to put in what's called the biofilters. These are areas, these are just different examples that we've done on other projects. This is probably what it would look like for the Villages project, more than likely. We're still working with the DOT on what form these will take, since it is the DOT's right of way. Basically, the stormwater discharges from the flow line of the ditch into this biofilter where it gets treated before it goes into the storm sewer. The downtown section, or the core project as it's called, is from Harbor School Road to E, and also on E from 42 to Church Street. Again, this section is added to complete the loop of bike lanes and sidewalk from connections to Highway 42. The existing roadway it's an urban section, but the sidewalks the asphalt sidewalk ranges from 4 to 5 feet in width. It kind of meanders through the right of way, avoiding various obstacles. It is not ADA compliant. So what we're looking to do is reconstruct the curb and gutter and expand the parking lanes as well. So you see here, we're extending the parking lanes on both sides, removing the bump outs that are scattered throughout. We'll be adding there'll be a 5-foot sidewalk, and it'll also be a concrete terrace between the sidewalk and the back of the curb, with street lighting located at the back of the sidewalk. We're looking at various streetscaping amenities, and what we're showing here is brick pavers along the edge of the project. As part of this project too, we're going to be adding turn lanes on Highway 42. The existing Highway G turn lane, left turn lane for northbound traffic will be maintained. There will be a left turn lane for northbound traffic added at White Cliff Road, and a left turn lane for southbound traffic at the Main Street shops.
All right, now I'll just jump in here. I just wanted to point out, as many of you probably recall, the village went through a comprehensive master plan update back in 2019. As part of that master plan update, we had a public participation plan, and a survey was sent out to all of our village residents to get feedback from you all. As part of that survey, the public was directly asked about their support for on-street bike lanes. And over 50% of respondents to that survey said that they did support on-street bike lanes, with the most supported location being on Church Street from Harbor School Road to County Highway E. And as Mike mentioned, that was incorporated as part of our Church Street project that's set to kick off this fall.
Getting back to parking, that's been a focus of the Parks and Public Works Committee as well, trying to maximize parking on Highway 42. What we show here is a kind of a before and after conditions. Currently, there are 74 on-street stalls on Highway 42. That'll be expanded to 122 as part of the project. We've got it broken down in segments. You can see Harbor School to Market's increasing from 19 to 34 stalls. Market to G is going from 19 to 24. G and Orchard, we're losing one, but that's the only section where that occurs. And then from Orchard to E, we're going from 10 to 39. In addition, the Pershinger Center parking lot, there's basically 2 parking lots. We're focusing on the one furthest to the north. There are currently 21 parking stalls in there. There's 2 entrances to the lot. One is from Orchard and one is from 42. Currently, all the stalls are oriented for people entering on 42. Unfortunately, most people don't go in that way, so the stalls are 45 degrees coming from the wrong direction. So We're gonna be reorienting those as well as expanding that lot. We're doing that by closing off the 42 entrance on the highway into the parking lot. That will be adding an additional 16 stalls, a combination of reconfiguring and then expanding to the west. So net, we have an increase of 64 stalls immediately adjacent to the highway. Crosswalks are a concern with the village. Right now, there's just 2 parallel lines. We're working with the DOT on various options to improve that. The option we're focusing in on now is the ladder type crosswalk. They're higher visibility. This is showing it at a proposed bump out. So next up, we're going to show a video that we prepared. There's 2 videos actually. One is an overhead view of the project. It starts with an aerial view of the existing roadway. It was done with the drone. And then after we do a certain section, we come back in where there's a 3-dimensional model we created of the proposed roadway, showing all the buildings and the proposed streets. So it gives you a good opportunity to really visualize what's happening here. There's a musical background, isn't it?
It's not projecting.
The 3D model we're showing is with the powered lines buried. So that's the option that's shown on this video, as opposed to showing all the options. And we'll be getting into the utility section later. So the additional left turn lane for White Cliff and the southbound left turn lane at the Main Street Shops. There's one The next video will be of just a 3D model of a street view.
Do you want me to try the audio? Yeah.
All right, we'll watch it again.
Watch it again with audio. Get the full experience.
We're showing the proposed condominium development. It's where the old gas station was. That was brought in on this. It's the same information, but just the street level view. Okay, what I'm gonna show you now is just some still renderings from the video itself, trying to point out some of the key aspects of it as opposed to trying to talk over the video. This is at Harbor School Road is right over here. So the intent is to have bump outs at the entrance to the core with a enhanced crosswalk. We've got trees shown here. This is the current landscaping concept of the trees and the planters behind the sidewalk. These are in areas that obviously can only be put in where there is no parking. The paver bricks we're showing here, the goal is to repurpose the existing paver bricks that are out there right now, plus what the village has in storage, which is quite a few.
Can I ask you a question right back there? The guy on the bicycle, is he lost?
Does he show up a lot? I didn't see it. The markets, Main Street Market here, showing 2 crosswalks at this location. I believe there's only one there now, so the one on both sides of the roadway. Throughout here, we are showing the transformers that are gonna be needed for bearing the power lines. We'll get into a little more detail on that, but I'll point them out on a couple spots in here. Again, this is the new development that's gonna be occurring. We got this from the developer, the architect, using the same software, so that's a pretty good depiction of what's gonna be in here. You could add some more landscaping in here, but we didn't wanna take away from what's going on here. I know there's site plans in development for next to Shipwreck as well. We just took the existing buildings that were there out. You can see the left turn lane for northbound traffic. Again, just a different view of the same. There were some parking stalls existing that extend close to the intersection, makes sight distance very difficult as you're trying to get out of this intersection. So we've eliminated that to try to meet intersection sight distance requirements for the DOT. Harbor School Road, currently the sidewalk, there's an asphalt trail that kind of swings around here and loops around and back to where the crosswalk is here. That will be taken out, and we'll just run the normal sidewalk through and make an extension to the existing trail. Right here's an example of the utility box that is going to be required from WPS. We got the locations and the sizes from WPS, put those in the video. Here's another one at this location here. Okay, this shows the new northbound left turn lane for White Cliff Road and the southbound left turn lane into the Main Street shops with the enhanced crosswalk here. Again, where we're showing, where the yellow is, there's no parking. There's no parking there now into this area. We had to eliminate a few parking stalls in here to get the left turn lane in. Again, just a different close-up view, example of a transformer box. We'll get into different types of screening here a little bit later. This is the village, the Berkshire Center parking lot improvements we talked about. Currently, there's an entrance onto Highway 42 here, and all the parking lot is, this lot is got 45-degree parking oriented to people coming off of 42. So that'll be eliminated, a couple additional on-street stalls added here, and we'll be extending the parking lot and reconfiguring the stalls so they're 90 degrees to be accessed from the Orchard Street entrance, or more easily accessed, I should say. This is the north end of the project. Again, bump outs showing the beginning of the core area with the trees similar to the entrance at Harbor School Road. Again, these are the transformer boxes that, utility boxes that will need to be installed. Okay, going into the utility options, we talked about, there's 3 options. There's maintaining existing wood poles, going to a fiberglass pole, large fiberglass pole, or burying the utilities. What we're showing here is, this right here is an existing pole on the street. It's got a guy wire going across the sidewalk, with the pole located in the terrace area. What I'm showing here is a sample of those would be replaced with, would be maintained, the wooden poles. They would be, they call them sidewalk guys. We're talking to WPS, and what they were gonna be installing would be similar to this, except the poles would be in the terrace and the guy would be in the opposite side. There is no cost really for maintaining existing wood poles. The utility is required to relocate those that better fit our proposed road. There may be some additional cost, minor, for putting these sidewalk guys in, because these would be on private property, so it'd be over here. Okay, this is the fiberglass pole option, similar to what they have in Fish Creek. The advantage of these poles is that you don't need the guy wires coming down to anchor the poles. Each individual pole is engineered specifically for the project. The poles are buried deeper. We're talking 37 poles for this project. The total cost for WPS plus the additional utilities to transfer over to the new poles is estimated at $1.2 million with this option. The third option is to bury the utilities, similar, it would look like was shown on the videos and the still renderings, so you have a good picture of what that would look like. This is what was done in the village of Ypres. Our estimated costs to relocate these, let's change that. Yeah, this is 2.3, this one wasn't updated. The estimates are finally coming, final estimates from the other utilities other than WPS are coming in. So 2.3 million would be the cost of burying the utilities. As shown in the video and the renderings, there's different ways to try to screen these utilities. This one here comes from Sister Bay. In our videos, we're showing taller plantings. We have to work with WPS to see what they will and won't allow. But here's an example of one with some taller plantings. So we'll have to work to try, to camouflage those best we can.
All right, I'll jump in again. Just wanted to point out again, as part of our comprehensive plan update back in 2019, in our public participation process, we surveyed the community and asked them directly about the burial of the utilities. Over 63% of survey respondents stated that they would support the village exploring the utility burial. However, many commented that they would like to know the costs associated with the burial and the impact on taxpayers. That's what we're here today to discuss. So, go to the next slide, please. So here's a side-by-side cost comparison of those utility options that Mike just went through. The first is the overhead utility poles with the wooden poles. The only potential cost is acquiring easements for the guy wires that would go on private property. So there's a minimal impact tax-wise, which we're showing on the bottom, the impact on a $300,000 home. The second option is the overhead utilities with the engineered fiberglass poles. That cost is $1.2 million, and it includes the cost of the poles and the relocation of the other communication utilities onto those poles. That cost would be approximately $55 per year for 20 years, again on a $300,000 home. The last option is the underground or buried utilities. That cost comes in at $2.3 million. That includes the cost of burying the utilities, equipment easements that will be required, and private connections to homes. So the tax impact on a $300,000 home for buried utilities is approximately $110 per year for 20 years. All right, then I wanted to touch on the Parks and Public Works Committee recommendation. The Parks and Public Works Committee carefully considered and reviewed the utility options we just reviewed with all of you, and they made the decision to recommend utility burial to the village board. The Parks and Public Works Committee based that recommendation on a few factors, which I'll review for you. One, many major Egg Harbor developments have already adopted the planned unit development standard of burying above ground utilities. Some examples of those developments here in Egg Harbor are Ames Farm, the Orchards, and Apple Ridge. Past Egg Harbor leaders have shown foresight by burying our utilities on Church Street, Market Street, Orchard Road, and most recently, a section of County Highway G. Aesthetic results of elimination of wood poles and guy wires or the fiberglass pole option. And as Lisa had mentioned previously, the next opportunity for burying the utilities won't come for another 30 to 50 years. The village board has yet to make a final decision on the utilities, which they will be doing at their August 9th meeting. They'll be reviewing all of the information we just reviewed with all of you on all the different options. They'll also be provided with information on public input we received from all of you today. A decision needs to be made on the utilities before we can finalize the project plans. So they'll be making that decision, and then we'll move our plans forward based off of what they decide. And then I'll have Mike back to review the project schedule.
Just briefly, the schedule, touched on a little bit earlier. The fall of 2022, work would start after the Pumpkin Patch Festival. Would start with storm sewer in the north and south projects, the TAP funded projects we discussed previously. And also utility relocations would be occurring at that time as well. In the TAP section, north and south, utilities do have to relocate the existing overhead power lines, the poles to make room, so to avoid the proposed sidewalk. And if we're burying the utilities in the core, that's when the utility burial will happen in the core as well. In the spring of 2023, it'll be the storm sewer in the core portion. There's existing trunk line storm sewer already there. This would just be a matter of extending the inlet leads, adding inlets, the curb and gutter, asphalt pavement, temporary sidewalk, temporary restoration. Try to wrap that up by Memorial Day. Then they take a break, and back in the fall of 23, we'd be the permanent sidewalk, street lighting, final pavement marking, and final restoration. Then the spring of 24, they'll probably do the lateness of the landscaping. There would be some touch-up work on that, and then the streetscaping items, the various benches, potted plants, that type of thing that you saw in the video and the renderings, that would occur in the spring of 2024 as well.
All right, and I would like to touch on the methods the village is actively working on to minimize impact to our businesses during our construction. As Mike just reviewed, we'll be restricting the construction schedule to the less busy months of the year, so keeping that construction before Memorial Day and after Labor Day or after Pumpkin Patch. We're reconstructing Church Street to provide alternate access to businesses, so that'll be done prior to the start of the highway project. We'll be adding a lot of parking on Church Street and making improvements to the Village View parking lot, so we'll still have plenty of parking available during the State Highway 42 construction. We're also making sidewalk improvements to link pedestrians from the parking on Church Street down to the highway, so there will be a connecting point on Harbor School Road down to the highway from Church Street. County Highway G was also recently reconstructed and will provide an alternate access to our businesses and includes a sidewalk down there for pedestrians. And staff will also be working with the Egg Harbor Business Association to put together an alternate routes to the local businesses map. We'll have that map available at locations inside of town and also on the outskirts of town, so that as people are heading into town, they still know how to navigate the village while we have construction going on. Now we'll move into project investment and tax impact. So we'll start by reviewing the project costs. The TAP project sections, those are the north and south sidewalk extension areas that Mike mentioned earlier, has an estimated cost of $1.7 million, and that includes a 5% contingency. The two TAP project sections, the village did receive Transportation Alternative Program grant funding in the amount of $1.382 million. The next section is the core project section that runs from Harbor School Road to County Highway E. The estimated cost of this project section is $1.9 million. That includes a 15% contingency. Also, the costs that I'll be going over further, all of our projections do include the utility line burial. That has an estimated cost of $2.3 million, as I reviewed earlier. There's also construction administration costs in the amount of $340,000. That brings our total estimated project cost to $6.2 million, minus the $1.382 TAP grant, which brings the total cost to $4.8 million. The village will be utilizing general obligation bonds and possibly a general obligation note to fund the project. We cannot bond for the utility burial, so that would require the general obligation note. So that's why I mentioned that that's a possibility, as that decision is yet to be decided. We worked with Ellers to put together a financing plan for the debt service that'll be created with the project. The rows highlighted in these different colors indicate when there's an increase in the tax rate. The green column here is inclusive of the utility line burial. So there'll be an increase in 2021, 2022, and then the utility line debt service would hit in 2025. So like I mentioned, the green includes that utility burial. The white column on the very end here, that does not include the utility burial. So there's a difference in that there. We do have 3 grants that will be applied for the debt service. You can see those in the red. On the grant funds column, that is a grant for the Alpine purchase that John mentioned earlier. The $1 million grant is for our Church Street project, and then the 1.368 is for the TAP project sections. Now I'll review the debt capacity and village philosophy. Wisconsin statute sets municipal debt limits at 5% of a municipality's total equalized values. That means that the village's current maximum debt capacity is approximately $20.5 million. In 2016, the village board gave staff direction to stay within 60% of the village's debt limit capacity while capital planning, and the village has been successful in doing that for the past 4 years. The village board has agreed to exceed the 60% debt limit capacity target for the upcoming road projects, meaning that the debt limit will only exceed that 60% target for a total of 5 years. The village will stay within our statutory limitation of 5% of our equalized value, and the debt limit will return to below the 60% threshold in 2026. This graph reviews our historical, current, and projected debt ratios. So as you can see, up until 2021, we were under that 60% threshold. As of 2021, we're at 63%. In 2022, we'll be at our peak at 87%. 2023, 78%. 2024, 68%. 2025, 62%, and then back to 57% in 2026. So 3% of our overall 5% allowable debt capacity is our 60% debt target that we're working towards. The next graph depicts our debt utilization versus our statutory limit. So again, we're at that peak in 2022, coming back down in 2023. It's important to point out that as of 2029, the remaining debt for the Egg Harbor Arena and the Donald and Carol Crest Pavilion will be retired in 2029. All right, how will this affect my taxes? Very important information. So what we did is we looked at the tax increase on a $300,000 home. So I took an existing tax bill that has an assessed value of around $300,000, and we'll look at the projections from here. So when you're looking at your tax bill, the V of Egg Harbor line that's highlighted in yellow is the portion that the tax increase is going to affect. So really we're starting out with $1,259.12. And that'll be increased by $90.93 for the press referendum that was passed earlier this spring. That brings our total to $1,350.05. The first step of the debt service will be $89 that'll hit in 2022, and that brings the total Village of Egg Harbor net tax to $1,439.05. That second step, as I mentioned earlier, will come in 2025, and that's inclusive of burying the power lines. That adds a $150 increase for a total of $1,589.05. This is a look at our tax rate in comparison to some of our other Door County municipalities. Our 2020 net tax rate per 1,000 was $12.02. In Ephraim, it was $11.82. Sister Bay, $13.99, and Sturgeon Bay, $20.52. In 2022, with our first increase with our debt service, will be bumped up to $12.61. And then in 2025, with the second step projected increase, will land at $13.10. Before we get into our public comment section, I just wanted to let you know where you could go for more information after today. We do have a dedicated webpage up on our website. It's at villageofeggharbor.org/HWY42. Our webpage will be updated with our full project plans, schedule, and a recording of today's presentation after tomorrow's presentation. And I'd like to invite all of you to come and stop at the project sections if you need more specific information on anything, or feel free to stop by the Village Administration Office after today. More than happy to sit down with you, review plans in more detail, review in more detail the information that was presented today. The Village Office, if you're not aware, is located right across the street in the Birchinger Center. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, so feel free to stop by whenever you'd like. Now I'll have Sophie facilitate our question and answer.
Do we have any written questions that folks wanted to?
Yeah, if you have a written question, feel free to send it to Jess or Tom. Before we start, just a few housekeeping things. We're gonna ask that the questions stay focused on general topics of the project, and if you have a question about a specific property or a specific issue, that you wait just until the end and you'll be able to ask that directly to the people that are involved. And then, yeah, so when we adjourn, you can address those questions directly to project partners. All right. Yes.
I went and handed in my questions, they were very quick. I just wanted, I'm Rich Wolt, I have Wolton Town Farmette up on Church Street. And number one, I put it in there, it says just bury those damn utility things and get them out of our site and stop them from cutting our trees down and all the rest of that. Just bury it for what it costs. I just want to tell you guys a little story, and very short. We built the Lullaby Motel, a 6-unit motel back in 1953, and dealing with old Katie from Katie Land Company, I remember my mother always said, kids, buy 400 feet and build your motel, but also buy 400 feet on Church Street behind it, because someday you're gonna thank God you did that. And I fight just about everything that tried to build in this village, but all of this is just an awesome idea. I'm behind it 100%. No matter what it costs, 10 years from now, we're gonna turn around and say, I'm proud of what you guys are doing. That's my opinion. I'll probably be dead.
All right, we're gonna take can we take this one and then we'll do a card one? Okay.
In the video that you were showing, you showed positions of transformer boxes. Is that an example of where they would be? Is that a suggestion for where they will be? Or is that written in stone where they're going to be?
I'll take that one. We got the locations from WPS.
Mike, can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, he asked about the transformer boxes, the utility boxes shown in the video and the renderings, where that information came from. That came from WPS. All those locations we're showing are areas where we're gonna need to acquire an easement. The size of the boxes also came from WPS, different size boxes at different locations. There'll also be, not shown in there because they're not far enough along design, is telephone and cable TV. They'll have much smaller boxes, but they'll be clustered in the same easements as WPS.
So those boxes can't be moved because of what WPS says, is that correct? Or they
That
can't?
is their current requested location.
Requested.
Yeah, they haven't done final design yet. They got a very well done preliminary design to get the numbers as close as they could for the village to make a decision.
All right, we're gonna do just a card question. Will the Church Street portion of the project close down Church Street completely?
Can you repeat that?
For the Church Street portion of the project, will Church Street be closed
entirely during that construction? Or will there be any access on Church?
Okay, you're talking about not the 42 project, but the Church Street project.
It's right
Yeah.
behind you.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask something? I'll jump in if you need me.
Yeah, so we decided, well, the Church Street project has been funded and it's starting this fall. It was thought perhaps we would stop through the winter. Well, we will stop through the winter, but we were thinking of starting in the spring, cut it off early summer, and then go to the following fall. The trustees have discussed that, and we decided we'd like to push right through the project. So it's going to start this fall. It's going to be taken up again in the spring, and we're going to push through until it's completed, and that's anticipated midsummer. Access to all residential properties will be accommodated. The construction will be such that will be on one side of the road or move back and forth from one side to the other, but there will be limited traffic on Church Street with access to Peg Egan when it's performing and access to the library, Crest Pavilion. So that's the plan.
Another audience question. Anyone?
What
Yes?
is that?
We live on Church Street on the north side of E, and we have a lot of traffic that comes off 42 and heads towards E. How much do you see any traffic increase with people cutting off with the construction anytime during the project?
So you're probably talking 42, so I'll let you probably talk about that. Church Street will be completed by that time though, so.
So I think the question is, will there be more traffic on Church when the Highway 42 project begins?
Right, as Megan mentioned, the goal of the Church Street project, one of the goals is to get all that parking built before the 42 project starts. So there will be total lack of parking downtown during that time period. So there will be there'll be a lot more stalls available on Church Street for them to park.
And I would say undoubtedly there's going to be more traffic, because if traffic is restricted on 42, they're going to have to go to Church Street. So you're going to experience some.
And that construction is happening outside of the busy season, so although there'll be more traffic on Church Street.
It won't be like summer.
Right, it won't be summer traffic.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ken?
Yeah, just wanted to mention for a DOT rep, what's the formal detour gonna be when the 42 is going on? The formal detour is not gonna be on Church Street, right? Maybe it's.
No.
No.
on
We're still working with the DOT, we got an agreement with the DOT of where the detour route will be. It hasn't been approved by the county yet, still waiting to hear back from them. But it's gonna be Country Highway I to, it's actually in the handout too.
We have more of them if you need one on your way out.
I just don't want to give you the wrong location. It's Country Highway I to 57, 57 to V, V to A, and A to double E.
And understand that the detour is not needed for the roadway and shoulder resurfacing that's needed for the local work. Although that's the case, because of the local project happening concurrently with ours, we'll probably do some of our paving. Although we can do it under a flagging operation, we'll more than likely do some during closure as well.
I'm gonna take another card question really quick. The question is about sidewalks on Orchard and whether or not it was considered to have sidewalk on both sides of the road as opposed to just the sidewalk here. And is that parking lot, the Birchinger parking lot, designated for village, marked as designated for village parking?
Want me to take that?
Sure.
Right now, there are no plans to add more parking or curb and gutter on Orchard. That will be another project. That will be another project. It's not part of this one. What was the other question?
Whether the parking lot at Birchinger is designated for village parking.
Yes, that will be a designated village parking lot. It will be, all the access will be on Orchard Street, which much of the access is on Orchard Street already. So that will be reconfigured, and I believe, how many more spaces? 19, 23? 27 more spaces. So that will be a really good, good for Casey's, things like that. You want to add?
But, Sophie, that's public parking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The question was whether it's like gonna be formally designated if it's not.
Yeah.
Yep, there's
Yeah.
public parking signs there now, and they'll be maintained.
Okay, so
Yes.
I wrote that question.
Yeah.
It seems to me if you're going on that parking lot, you have to cross the street, then get a sidewalk to go to 42.
And I think the response was that while that is true, that portion of Orchard for sidewalk is not part of this project. It would have to be a separate project in the future, but it could be a consideration.
There will be a sidewalk connection from the parking lot to the sidewalk on.
So you can get from the parking lot to 42 without going to Orchard Street.
Yes, that current sidewalk that's existing there, when you walk on the sidewalk and then you go on the side to the building, that will stay there. It'll be handicap access, plus there'll also be some steps to
There's a-
go, so.
Yes, there's a set of stairs that go from the parking lot down to 42.
So there'll be two ways to get on there from 42 if you're pedestrian.
Yes.
My name's Ed Martin, I'm 7793 Horseshoe Bay Road, condo in Control, and I have a plan on 42. And I think he's done a marvelous job. The car lines are fantastic. I think it's a real need and great benefit for the community. In addition to that, my many neighbors who couldn't be here tonight are in favor of that. If you have a list of names or comments, I can provide those for you, and then you can contact me. That's my recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
On the video, I did not see a left turn lane for southbound traffic at Market Street. Is that something that was considered or omitted, or is?
It is not planned. We'd have to take out a lot of parking to make that happen.
Because that really is a congested point going through the village.
We did consider that, but because of the parking there and the limited space and all the businesses around that tight area and the driveways coming in, we realized it wasn't really feasible. So,
Anyone else? I'll do you after. If anyone else in the audience has a question? Yes?
Better if I could speak up in front, and then maybe even the camera could pick me up. I wasn't thrilled with all the ideas of the enhancements to the town. It's been very hard for me to speak as it is, but I've had a house here and lived here for over 30 years. The home has been a residence for over 100 years, and I do see the town in the beauty that it has. The green that we have going up along the edges right now, I find quite pleasant. The videos I didn't really understand. They came up to locations such as my home between going north from here. It's a little teeny cute white house. It's got a very long expanse of 132 feet of shorefront. The video doesn't show you how my property is more than 4 feet back at the right-of-way, 4 feet high, and it would be a ledge along the entire property, and I've got this extensive view back into the house property where I really don't want to see the electrical meters. I brought photographs last year of what was going on in Sister Bay, and I find them very obtrusive. I don't know if the lines are going to be buried on one side, if one person's going to have to take the burden of more meters in the right side. The right side of my neighborhood is a neighborhood. I have residents on all 4 sides of me. I don't need the trees taken out, the property cut back, the parking. When I bought a house here, we were to accommodate any parking if we were to have businesses or parking on our property. I thought it was just great. I bought it when we redid the place at that time. I'm losing my thoughts on this, but if the board is going to go ahead and finalize a decision on August 9th, I think we're due to understand in more detail what's going on. I thought the videos were upsetting to me. It was not the village that I have enjoyed over the past years. I think it would be disturbing. The sidewalks is a big thing you made. This is your big accomplishment, that this was all necessary or not. I've never seen a problem with the sidewalks. I dare you to show me that video of the town and the way it exists and where sidewalk infrastructure is a difficulty. If we haven't done anything in any maintenance on the sidewalks in 33 years, of course it was going to be settling because we had dug it up and we had created these sidewalks 33 years ago. But we've spent no money in that to maintain that. We haven't maintained the grass edges along the road. We haven't done anything to make this beautiful thing we have appreciated and enjoyed, and to put the concrete again. And then what's going to happen with all the snow? You take the highway snow, you put it onto the runway of a parking area. And then that's going to go onto the runway of the private property. And then there's no room left to put up on private property. You took double the lights and you buried it in snow over the last few years. The fire department couldn't get in there.
Okay, we're gonna have to just wrap the last thoughts on that.
Okay, so August 9th, I think it's pushing it. I think if anybody ever wants to meet me, Luke Bentley, I'd like to discuss, I can come up with the dozens and dozens of things going on that I find just short of what I would think you could come up with and do better.
Okay, thank you. Back to just a card question about church again. When will they be buried? Actually, the telephone and power lines are already buried on church, correct?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, okay. Will they be widening church between E and 42? Will it be any wider?
Between E and 42?
Well,
No, that's
That
not.
was my question. I was just wondering if they're from E to the end of Church Street going north, and that's
That's not happening
good.
now.
Thank you.
all right, anyone in the audience again? Yes, Megan.
Just have people use microphones, because with people shuffling around and all that stuff, sometimes it's getting hard to hear, so.
Okay, sure.
I can run it.
Anyone else in the audience? Yep.
Yeah, I just have a follow-up question for Megan. I'll just yell. For Megan on the rate of Egg Harbor compared to the other municipalities. When the debt from the marina comes off in 2029, is that 1310 gonna go back down to a lower number? Do you have that handy? I think it will, but I don't have that.
So Ken, we're retiring more debt in 29 than we're adding. So we should be paying less taxes at that point than we're paying at the present time.
Okay, I think that's really a key.
But that
point.
is an important
This is a
item.
short-term bump in the debt, and we're gonna be right back down in a few years. I'm on the committee, so I'm kind of tracking all this question. Thank you.
I'm gonna do the last card question. This is a question, this is a question of a comment. Who paid for the sidewalks and parking in Fish Creek, and who is paying for our sidewalks and parking for this project in Egg Harbor? I think it's just an understanding of where the money is coming from.
I can take that. Like Paul mentioned, the DOT is responsible for the driving lanes. So any community along there that's, your parking lanes, sidewalk, all that is the community cost. So the village did get just about $1.4 million for the TAP portion of the project, the north and south segments, whereas the core portion is going to be 100% village funded.
Yes.
Me?
So I
Back.
have the transformer boxes in my front yard. Because, at the ridge where I live, we have very utilities, we have very utilities. Love you guys. In my life, in my hands. So, there's three boxes there. One is, as Mike Correct, there's one for WPS, there's one for Charter, Spectrum, and there's one for whatever the local company is. I don't even know what it is these days. The WPS box is really solid, it's metal, really good, right? The other ones aren't, and the Charter one's big, it's plastic, and leans over that way, it looks like it's falling apart most of the time. And I can say that's true in every instance I've seen that in Apple Ridge. So my question is, can we get them to give us a better box?
So Ed, I think the cost of a better box and getting them put in plumb or level is probably another $2 to $3 million.
Okay,
Big sense, perfect sense of me.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I think that the left turn lanes in congested areas is a really, really smart idea, a really smart idea. When you do something like that though, and you're having a left turn lane where you've got crosswalks, you tend to create blind spots for pedestrians. Is there any thought to putting in user-activated flashers to alert oncoming traffic to pedestrians in the side?
Well, there has been thought of that, and there has been some thought about that, and we investigated different ways to do that. It's not part of this plan right now, but it would be an overlay if they need it. We're gonna see how it goes. There are other options, there's signage. The DOT will be investigating that too and matching. But we do have some contingency plans for that. They're not part of the budget right now, but we know if we do need them, we know how to get them. The disadvantage about that, they are good for safety. They're very tall, they're solar, sort of ugly. You know what, 8, 9, 10 feet tall. I've seen them and have pictures of them from other communities that I've been at. But we'll just wait and see how it's needed. But it is on our mind. Thanks for that question.
just real quick, and an observation. When I was, and we got a lot of brain power and creative people over here, professionals. While I was doing selling poppies during Memorial Day in front of Main Street Market, a lot of people just go in there and park. And considering we need a grocery store parking area for all of us to get in, get out, and get back to the beach and the bars, is there anything at all you guys can come up with that would help Main Street keep their parking lot just for shoppers?
No.
That was a no from John Hill.
Not from the village, at least. Yeah.
We're adding substantial number of parking spots.
But I mean, are there things like riflemen or gates or anything?
That could be private property.
What do they do in other communities to keep the traffic moving and not using? That's
No, we're
good
talking,
answer.
about parking, and I think that's a responsibility of the property owner.
Yeah, the property owner is working on a plan with the village right now. I'm not part of that, but we're working with the plan commission and hopefully we can put in a lot more parking.
Maybe signage, you know, municipal signage.
All right, we've got another question over here.
Yes, this is a dog lover question. It looks like the dog park's gonna be greatly reduced. Is that correct? The dog park,
It's gonna be what?
reduced,
Well, it's gonna be reconfigured. That we have a retention pond going in, and so there's going to be some turmoil for the dog park during the construction phase, but we're going to have to deal with that. And what we eventually end up with is yet to be determined, but we'll make it as large as we possibly can.
okay, so is it still a consideration to go toward the fire department, that playground back there?
Well, the village would like that, the town not so much, so.
So who can we talk to?
The town, you can talk to the town.
Okay, we'll be there, thank you.
Town of Egg Harbor.
Thank you. If,
I just needed to know where to go.
it'll be a fine dog park.
Dog lovers?
Any other questions? Yep.
This is just a comment, but I think the business community is
projects, the difference between Fish Creek and say Ephraim, it's stunning. I mean, and Fish Creek has the luxury of having cedar trees pretty close to those ginormous poles. In Egg Harbor, we're going to lose our trees on the bump outs. If we have ginormous power lines, that is all your eye is going to see. Aesthetically, it is going to be ugly. I really encourage the board to make the step to bury the line. And the other issue, and I'm not sure if this affects it or not, but we are affected a lot by power outages, the business community is. I mean, that stops you cold. I've had Shipwreck call, hey, do you have power down there? We don't, and we're in the middle of a dinner service. So hopefully this would alleviate some of those issues too, which is burdensome to the business community.
Thank you. Any other questions from any first-time commenters?
It's about that power situation. The head of the fire department for 50 years said that had never been a power outage in the village of Egg Harbor because of lines going down along the streets here. So that's a hard comment to take. And as far as the trees go, I don't see why some of those trees can't be left along 42. It took 33 years for them to grow. And what you're doing is you're devastating. You talk about this green tier thing. You're taking all the green away. You're making asphalt onto concrete onto asphalt. I don't see it as an improvement. Certainly not in my neighborhood. I don't want to pay any taxes on this. Where's the improvement to my property? I'm a homeowner.
You have another comment in the back?
I'd just like to make it clear that burying up the power lines isn't going to have anything to do with lack of power. Okay, thank you.
I got it.
Yes, head over there.
If I could make a response on the trees, obviously that's a big concern. Obviously, I'm on the committee. The aesthetics relating to trees and these pods of plantings and so forth are really important. You saw some of those on the video. As we go along, we're gonna look to put those in the right spaces and try and restore some of that. We know we're gonna lose some, but we're very sensitive to that. And it's a combination of a lot of things that went into that decision. Thanks.
Thanks. Comment in the back?
Some of that is being lost because of the 10-foot sidewalks. Have they thought about not creating the 10-foot sidewalks? We do lose a lot of green space with that.
So has the thought been that we wouldn't make the sidewalks as large to save some of the green space?
Hi, I've been on this committee for 15 years, maybe, and we have spent a ton of time on the sidewalks. And what our committee has really decided is that it is so important that our village be walkable, and it is not walkable right now, at all. And Fish Creek had their little terrace with their Marigold, they got rid of them, because they want sidewalks. They need sidewalks that are wide. The widest sidewalks are right in the core of the village, where there are multitudes of people trying to walk, and the sidewalks are probably gonna be about 9 feet wide, but they're completely necessary. There is, and regarding the green space, if you look through our village, if you looked at that video, but if you just drive through the village, there is so much green space behind our sidewalks right now existing. All of our businesses along the highway corridor have grass, have plantings, have pots. It's beautiful. There are some trees that are gonna be lost, but there's so much green space that is left. The video shows all the green space that is shown in that video in the renderings. That is all existing. None of those trees were added. All of those trees are existing. And I think it's pretty interesting when we look at, especially the overhead view, and see how much green there is. We are very, very green in this village. So what we're really trying to do is make it walkable and make it safe. And the only way to really do that is to have those wide sidewalks in certain areas.
Any other comments or questions from the audience?
I'd like those videos to be played on a regular monitor, going one after another downstairs in this library. We have plenty of monitors so people can look at those. I see a concrete wall and walkway going right up to a building like the side of Shipwreck throughout the entire town where the buildings are approaching the right of way.
Okay.
You are taking and killing the town.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes?
I just want to know in the vegetative areas in that film, whatever that was, who's supposed to take care of it? I noticed that there's certain areas here in which people don't take care of that are close to the road. I'm just wondering who's gonna weed them and make them look nice?
Who will be taking care of the vegetative areas that are along the road?
Parks and Public Works.
Public Works staff.
Have they been doing that at all in the last 20 years? I've taken photographs of Oktoberfest weekend, if the weed whacker used to come out once, we were lucky.
Okay.
You know your point of view, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, well, there is another meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. You're welcome to stay and look at the information that is in the back or ask any specific questions you might have to those involved.
Yeah, I have them kind of scattered all over.
Well, yeah, but
Well,
Yeah, hey, so that was really well. Really well. And I'm gonna start digging tonight. Oh, yeah. Head gets shot. Probably not. How was your trip? Okay. Terrific. Okay, well, I think that went really well. Really Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. Well, you talked about that. I am really excited about this because that's going to bring you guys into. How about that 6 hours? Really, it really makes it. Well, and encourage people to walk. So that's it. Also, this and that stuff really